Hi, and welcome to Chamber Chat, a series in partnership with WIMPEG, Western Oregon University, and the Monmouth Independence Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. Joining us today is David Clyne, who's the City Manager of the City of Independence. Thanks, David, for being here.
Thank you, Jane, for having me.
So I know you're not originally from the Monmouth Independence area, from Polk County. Why here? Why did you choose the City of Independence?
I'm not entirely sure originally where I am from. I've done a little moving over my career. Why Independence? I've been in Oregon since 2002, and Independence was a city that, frankly, I saw early in my career, and I thought, well, if that city manager ever retires or moves on, this is a place that I really want to be. And so, and why? Well, it immediately grabbed me, a couple different things about it. One, you could see, the historic district in place downtown, that it really had, what we call in our business great bones as a community. A place that had, a sense of place and a sense of history that wasn't artificial. The other thing was the river, and there's just the nice rural setting. So it was just a place that was clearly a place that it would be, a nice place to come. And then, it wasn't too long before I learned, how welcoming the community was for its, its diverse community, its families and whatnot. It just seemed, given my background, and I have a, very lengthy and diverse background, it really seemed like a great place to bring, my wife and my family and settled in.
And so this is obviously home at this point.
This is
home.
Here,
you've met the needs, the checklist, and all that.
Exactly. We bought a home. We're settled in and loving it. We're part of the fabric of the community, and I think we spend a lot of time in our historic downtown and enjoying its offerings.
So, as city manager, in case people aren't familiar with what that means, what does it mean? What do you do as city manager?
That's a question I have to answer even for my kids. I mean, sometimes, because that's a tough one. What do city managers do? Well, we sort of steer the ship, and we help inspire and help lead. We're part of the leadership team, and we're also the management team. So help the leadership of the community, shape its vision and enact its vision, and and then from the management side of that, help make sure that it happens. So the people that work for me work in very different areas. I have, a police department. They're very much concerned with the public safety and the security within the community, and they do a great job. We have a public works department. They're the ones that, they're out there on that pothole, and they're out there, making sure that water is delivered and that it's good and drinkable and potable. Making sure that, on the flip side, that the sewer is managed properly, and so that it goes away when it's supposed to go away. Library. We have a wonderful library system, and working with limited resource, and so doing what I can to help them do their jobs. Same with our museum. Same with our community development and planning functions. Everything, we work on limited budgets, limited personnel. So my job is just to help be a gap stopper and a cheerleader in many ways, and provide a little bit of another perspective on how the job gets done. So there's about 50 employees at Independence, and and some of them report directly to me, and some of them don't.
Okay, well, that's a nice overview. A definition, if you will, for city manager, for those who may not be familiar.
Yeah.
What would you say as a professional, whether you said you've had a varied background, but what would you say has been one of your greatest accomplishments?
So I think, and I don't mean to pander, but I think, after a lengthy career, I think my greatest accomplishment probably is right here in Independence. And that's being a part of the core team that took us to Denver to develop and win the All-America City designation for the community. It's a designation that's handed out to just 10 cities around the country, every year. And so it's a small group of cities out of, the thousands of cities that are out there that, that are possibly could be applicants or, candidates for the award. We were one of the smallest cities, one of two that were roughly in our size range that received the award. And really, it was about the community itself. It was about the people in the community. It wasn't what the city was doing, but rather what the city as a partner with our community was doing. The volunteerism and all the stories that get told in our community, and there were lots of them. I mean, so much of what our city is about is the efforts of wonderful volunteers to get out there and do things.
Well, I think the dog park's a great example.
Dog Park is
Which
a
I know
heck
is
of a-
really dear to you and to your wife, because you're
Yeah.
selling popcorn on
I
the
do.
week, during the River's Edge Summer Series and raising money. But the dog park's, I think, a great example of the volunteer spirit.
I agree. The dog park, by way of example, the dog park was built entirely with a group of volunteers. There were 20 to 30 people that were out there with their sleeves rolled up in their jeans and whatnot, putting up fences, clearing out the area, raising the money. There was like $15,000 that was raised to make that happen. And yeah, Peggy and I, throughout the summer event series, our music series in town, every Friday, we're out there almost every Friday, though our library director, frankly, is the one who cracks the whip and makes sure we're out there. She's the one who puts it together. She's wonderful, Robin Pachetti. But yeah, we sell popcorn and engage with all the the people that are there and just have a good just a good time listening to the music. Yeah, good time listening to most of the music.
So on a personal level, because these chamber chats are also an opportunity for people to get to know our individuals professionally and personally. So on a personal level, what would you say has been one of your greatest accomplishments?
So, okay, so kind of a tough one. On a personal level, you look back on a whole lot of years, and I think, it might be a little trite, but perhaps my family,
There's nothing trite about your family.
well, I don't want to say it's obvious, but, over my life, I've this is not my first time in the rodeo when I'm being married, and so I've managed to collect kids over the course of time, if you will. I have 3 adopted children. 2 are Native American, 1 Latina, and then I have a birth child, and then two wonderful children by my current my current wife, and that we have that we've blended together, and sort of keeping them, particularly with my adopted children who had struggles in life, being there and helping them, succeed to the levels that they've succeeded now has been, I look back and think, wow, that was a pretty good accomplishment. My oldest daughter is working on her master's degree. My 2 boys, my adopted children they're both proud fathers. My birth child has a bachelor's degree. She's working on her bachelor's degree and is being relocated right now for a new job. My children here are very accomplished. My daughter here is just engaged with the community in all sorts of different ways and is a professional in her own right. And my son is just my son here by Peggy, my wife, is he's just he's a real go-getter. He's doing wonderful things. So, family, first, I guess, is on a personal level. I think on a personal level, it was sort of the start of my career, but it wasn't. I don't know if I perceived it as so much as a career move as just a life choice. I was originally in the VISTA program, Volunteers in Service to America, and it's become, what has it become? The American.
AmeriCorps?
AmeriCorps, thank you.
As I question myself.
Yeah, the years are tough on the brain cells, but yeah, many years ago I was involved with the disabled community as part of a VISTA placement, and that really hit home as to I always felt like I wanted to be engaged in public service. It was sort of my upbringing, my what was important to my core values, but that really kind of put it together for me. Being able to be helpful to these people that wanted to help themselves in so many different ways in independent living situations was really sort of an amazing experience for me and really cemented for me what I wanted to do in the future, and that's just be a public servant.
That's interesting. I didn't know about the VISTA background. Not that I know everything about you, but I've got to learn something today.
I think it was before you were born, Gene.
Maybe not, I don't know. So obviously you're passionate about the community, you're passionate about the city of Independence. What would you say very quickly would be one of the unique features that really makes us special?
Well, I think, and it goes back to one of the reasons I moved here and what I have found since, and it's just been compounded for me, is the realness of it. I mean, there's nothing contrived about Independence. It has a wonderful history, a little bit of a body history, and it's changed over time. But the qualities of this community over time are, it's just very real. The diverse nature of the community is just a wonderful, discovery for me. I grew up in the Bay Area. I didn't stay there. I left in there in the 70s, but it's a very diverse area. And so, coming back to an area in a rural setting that is and respects diversity is unusual, frankly, in the West. And so, that is a great piece. It's willingness, the community's willingness to be entrepreneurial, to be engaged and visioning and open to positive change, progressive changes within our governance and within our community is just makes it kind of a special place to be, a special personal placement and a special professional placement.
So you get the small town charms and feels that people like. You get the entrepreneurship that you referenced.
Yeah.
You get the go get 'em attitude, make things happen, and a nice and with diversity. And so this is a nice feel.
Exactly. And all of that coupled with, its willingness to step out into the 21st, well into the 21st, if not towards the 22nd century. We were just designated Oregon's #1 innovation city in the state. So, we're really engaged in this new high-tech world. And, at the same time that we're building parks and trying to bring in, great projects and do things for our community, we're also sort of playing at a stratospheric level. We're on speaking terms with Intel and others, and so it's fun.
So before we leave, and congratulations to the city for the All-America status. That was a great accomplishment to everything you're moving forward. But my favorite question I get to ask very quickly, do you have a special skill or interest that would surprise people?
So what is it? What is it that I do that is unusual? So I dug and thought about that for a long time. My wife would say, "Well, you probably don't do anything," and I said, "No. There's one thing we do, at least that that we both enjoy together that I think is pretty unusual. But we love getting out. I love getting out in the woods and hiking and stuff. But what I really enjoy is sort of the treasure hunt of mushrooming.
Okay.
We're fairly avid shroomers now these days.
There's a photo.
There's a photo of the chanterelles. So and that season is coming on us here shortly. Hopefully, we get a little rain to make that happen. But it's kind of a treasure hunt, and it's just a whole lot of fun, and not to mention really good eating.
So 2 things I've got to learn: Vista and mushrooms. All right. So, well, David, thank you for joining us on Chamber Chat today. Really appreciate your time and you being here.
My pleasure, and thank you very much, T.
All right.
Thank you.
Hi, and welcome back to Chamber Chat. Joining me now is Paul Denny, who is the Vice President of the Polk County Historical Society. Thanks, Paul, for being here.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Now, I know a little bit about you. We've chatted a few times at some of the forums or mixers that you've attended. I know you're not originally from Polk County, so why Polk County? Why live in this area?
Well, it goes back to a parent wanting to help their son, their children. My son got out of the Army after 8 years in '06 and was diagnosed with MS, and his mom and I felt we really wanted to help him, so he wanted to go to school here. So it was the university that brought us here. And I was able to transfer my job to Corvallis, and then we bought this old house just a door away from the university here. So he would have it easier to go to school here.
All right, so between the university, your son, and then your job working out at Corvallis, it was an easy decision to make
Yes,
as far
it
as
was.
to be here.
Yeah.
Clearly, that was a few years ago, so you like it, you've stayed.
Yes.
What would you say is one of those features that makes Polk County and the Monmouth Independence area so special? I mean, you've stayed here, you've chosen to stay. So what makes this so special?
We, as far as I'm concerned and my family, is we really like the Main Street Park. And since we live right there next to it, it's an exciting place to live because we watch what goes on in the park, and the summer programs there are great. And it's a great place to raise kids. My son is remarried, and now we have 2 little toddlers. Actually, the oldest one is 6 and started school yesterday. So we're quite excited, and that's new around the house. So it's been exciting.
Okay, so you're definitely home now. You're settled in Polk County. This is it.
That's it.
Now, you're the vice president currently with the Polk County Historical Society. Tell me a little bit more about the Historical Society. And then I know you also have the museum and the Brunk House. So let's start with the Historical Society.
Well,
Tell us a little bit more about that.
The Historical Society keeps records of people in Polk County. So you can call the society and say, I'm so-and-so, my parents grew up here, and my grandparents, so forth. We have a huge archive and at the museum, and there's a small fee, but we can do research and give you the research on what they did here in Polk County, where they're buried, and so forth like that. We get a lot of inquiries going. My grandfather died in Polk County. Is there any records of that? And yes, there is. And
Well, actually, I had a phone call last week. We're filming this now in the beginning of September, so this was at the end of August. And I had a phone call from a gentleman from northern Alabama. And I know I have an accent, or so I've been told, but this gentleman had an accent, and he had been doing some family research, and he realized he was connected, a descendant somehow to, as he said, Neesmith, which I think most people out here say Nesmith, but
yes.
and so he wanted to know where he could go to find more information about that connection. So of course, let me tell you, the Polk County Historical Society gave him contact information, but it is true that people do call and inquire about their family heritage. Now, the museum is a huge part as well of where you spend a lot of your time. Can you tell us a little bit about the Polk County Museum?
Well, the museum is owned and operated by the Polk County Historical Society, and it is, we don't take any money from government, which is, some people think is cool, but it makes it tough to operate out there. So we're looking for memberships all the time and people to come out there. And we think we have a very top-notch museum. At least we're told that way. We've tried to become more kid-friendly out there. We have a G-gauge train set, suspended 18 inches off the ceiling, running 48 inches of 48 feet of track, and it's really exciting to watch the fourth graders come in on a tour, and the train makes a loop around several of our artifacts out there, and the kids get to chasing it.
Right.
So it's really funny to watch the kids. That's a highlight of the museum for me, is to watch the reaction to people and the kids.
Yeah, we have some photos that you're happy to share with you in the museum. And
Oh.
I know, and there's the train
the
there
train.
at the top of the screen. There was the previous photo had a military part to the museum where I guess you, with some of the highlights of the military impact with Polk County. You've got, for that photo, for example, is there anything you'd like to share about
Well,
that?
that's the, yep, let's see, I'm not going to get that right, am I? Anyway, it's the ship, the Ward, W-A-R-D, and that was a submarine chaser in the Second World War. It was finally sunk, but it chased after those little two-man submarines.
All right, so people can come to the museum, easily located right there on Highway 99, right near the going to 22. So it's a very easy access.
It's right there. If you come to the fairgrounds, we're on the south end of the fairground.
Right, so it's really easy access. You're open, I believe, you're closed on Tuesdays and Sundays, right?
That is correct.
So people can come Monday and then Wednesday through Saturday and get a taste of Polk County's history. You've got, like I said, the military component. You got, well, the train for the student or the younger people or older people who are trained aficionados. And you have just a lot of the artifacts, and so people can really get to know more about where they live.
It is really interesting. We go back, the start in the museum, you are introduced to donation claims. That's how the government give away free property to get people out here. So, and that's where the museum starts. We're really rich in history, and President Polk, in his term in office, he doubled the size of the United States. And that's what he wanted to do, and when he was done, he got out. So there's a lot of rich history. We have quite a bit of artifacts on Indians, on the Oregon Trail. A lot of people think it kind of ended at Oregon City. No, there was a lot of people that ended their trip here. It's the end of the Applegate Trail. And some people say it was the start of the California Trail, but the California Trail was really an Indian trail.
So really people can come to the museum, learn a lot about, obviously, local history, but some U.S. history as well.
That's correct.
The tie to James K. Polk I like because he was born outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, which is, I'm from that area, sort of, and there's actually still a museum in Pineville for James K. Polk's birthplace. So
Yes.
I remember as a student, when I was younger, going there for a couple of events, and now, years later, I'm living in Polk County, Oregon, which is just sort of an interesting fact. I don't know. But so obviously you volunteer with the museum and with the Historical Society. You had a job that originally you were able to transfer to Corvallis. What would you say has been one of your greatest professional accomplishments?
Oh, boy. Well, for me, my greatest accomplishment is where I'm at now. And I make no excuses for where I came up through and where I'm at. I'm looking ahead, and I also volunteer at the Polk County Food Share here in Monmouth. Some people don't know that we actually have a food share in Monmouth. But I volunteer at that and have for several years. And so that's fun. I'm retired now, and I'm trying to enjoy life.
Well, good for
so
you. That's a good
if I
place
can
to be.
enjoy life until they put me away, that's an accomplishment.
Perfect. So before we get to my favorite question that I get asked at this, just want to make sure people know that the Historical Society, you're actually going to be hosting our October mixer, which will be the third Thursday of October from 5:30 to 7. It'll be at the museum. So for the people who have never been to the museum, maybe they haven't been back recently, they can join us for the mixer. There'll be a fun activity that we've discussed. So yeah, that's coming up in October. Again, we're taping this in September, so there's plenty of time for people to add that to their schedules. And thank you for hosting that. But before we leave, the question that I get asked that's my favorite, what is an interest or a hobby, a skill that you have that might surprise people?
Well, it's not a surprise, but I love my grandchildren. They make up life. But I do wood crafting on a wood lay, and it goes back to a lot of my woodwork I've learned from my dad, and my brother and I picked it up, and we've played with it since. So I have an old Craftsman wood lay, and I turn bowls and nest of pins, make yarn swifts for my daughter, and she takes them and sells them at yarn meets and shows, and then she also has a site on Etsy where she sells the stuff. So
All right.
I got a full schedule.
Well, Paul, it's been great talking with you. Congratulations on everything, the work that you're doing with the museum, the success that you're having there, the volunteer spirit that you have for our community. So I really appreciate you joining us today, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Hi, and welcome back to Chamber Chat. Joining me now is Alisha Atha, who is the Office Manager for the OSU Extension Service, Polk County. Thanks, Alisha, for being here.
No problem. I'm glad to be here.
So you're also a board member with the Chamber of Commerce, and I really appreciate that time as well that you volunteer. You're currently a co-chair for our events committee for some of the bingo events that we have coming up, and I know the amount of hours and time that you're putting to that, and again, I thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
But So why live in the Polk County area? Your office is in Dallas. You live in this area too. So why here?
Well, I was born here and raised here, and most of my family lives in the area, so that's a big part of it. But also, I really like the small community feel of Polk County, so it's just enjoyable.
Since you've been here basically for your life,
Yeah.
what would you say is a unique or special feature for our area?
Well, I really love the Pacific Northwest in general, and I think especially Polk County is a great middle area. So, you're a couple hours away from the mountains or, an hour away from the ocean, and Portland's nearby, so it's just a great central area. Also, there's a lot of products and services that we have here locally that, a lot of other places don't have, like all of the wineries that we have and the obscure microbreweries, and there's just a lot of activities that are family friendly, that we have. And not to mention, I think my favorite part is all of the farmers markets and fruit and vegetable stands that are literally like littering every corner. Especially during the summer. So I love it.
So tell us a little bit more. Office manager, kind of descriptive there,
Yeah.
but what about the OSU Extension Service? What exactly does that mean? What do they do?
So we offer, we're of course affiliated with, or a part of Oregon State University, which is a research university. And so what Extension does is we offer research-based information and programming to the public in various areas of agriculture, 4-H, gardening, and forestry. So we just offer that to the community. So, for example, 4-H is a youth program, and the kids have different projects that they work on throughout the year, and then they showcase them at the Polk County Fair and then the State Fair.
Which, with your job as office manager, that often gets you out into the community, into the field. I saw you at the county fair, for example.
Yeah.
So what would you say, whether with the office manager position that you have now, but what would you say has been one of your greatest professional accomplishments?
So my biggest project, my personal biggest project that I work on every year, I'm also the Master Gardener program assistant. So one of the things that I do is I organize the Master Gardener training that we have every year, and which is actually something that we're getting going right now. The Master Gardener training is offered through January through March every year, and we do classes such as lawn care or vegetable gardening and all of that. And I'm just in the process of getting that lined up for this next coming year.
So that's the program that you get to coordinate, organize,
Yes. Yep.
put all the pieces together.
Yep. Do the scheduling and line up the instructors and stuff like that. So
That's just funny because it gets you to connect with a lot of people and
yeah.
explain what you're doing and
Yes.
educate people on Master Gardeners. So
Yes.
now people who participate in Master Gardeners, are they coming in as people who are already knowledgeable about gardening, or are they people who are just starting off saying, I want to learn how to be more effective with the gardening?
It's funny you asked because it's actually a wide range. Most of the people have a love of gardening, or that's their passion. But I actually had the opportunity to take the class the first year that I started, and let me tell you, I am not much of a gardener. But I'm much better now, having taken the training, and we even have our own little vegetable garden now, and which was pretty successful.
I was like,
Which
someone
would
for
not
me.
have been possible before.
I have killed aloe plants. I've killed a cactus.
Yeah.
I've managed to not grow plants very well.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely more of, I guess, you in the beginning.
Well, it's kind of a joke in my office because I am the program assistant for the Master Gardeners, yet I am definitely not a Master Gardener.
Do not have a green thumb.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Now, as far as the Master Gardeners or for OSU Extension, do you have any activities, anything besides the program coming up in January? Because we're filming this again in early September. So are there any announcements, or is there anything coming up?
Yes, well, actually, they have a big event that's coming up actually this weekend. Their annual Fall Fling, and it's their gardening festival or their outreach activity that they do every year. Sorry. And they showcase a number of speakers who come and talk about different aspects of gardening. So someone's coming to talk about, honeybees and how to raise honeybees, or, how to do garden art or something like that. And then they also have several vendors who are just there selling whether plants or gardening tools or gardening books and stuff like that. So that's their big outreach activity for the year.
So that's every year in September?
Yep.
So Fall Fling every year
Fall
September,
Fling,
check it
yeah.
out.
Yes.
Now, on a different note, because you are on our board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce and OSU Extension, you've been a supporter of the Chamber for a number of years now.
Yeah.
What would you say is one of the greatest benefits for the Extension office, as being a Chamber member?
Well, I'd say that being a Chamber member has given us a lot of opportunities to get out in the community and get our name out in the community, whether it's going to mixers or luncheons or being a sponsor, which is probably the biggest thing that we've been able to do is just sponsor some of the various events. And then now, of course, Chamber Chat. But I'd say that's the biggest thing, just being able to get our name out into the community. But also through being a member, we've been able to make some relationships and partnerships with other Chamber members that we maybe not have been able to do before, and now are able to partner with those agencies.
Great. Now, before we wrap things up, my favorite question that I get to ask, and of course I told you ahead of time, so you have plenty of time to prepare, but do you have a special skill, interest, or hobby that would really surprise people?
Surprise people? Well, so we're a very outdoorsy family, and we do a lot of outdoor activities, hiking and camping, but I think that one of the things that I guess surprises people about me is that I enjoy hunting. So yeah, we're a hunting family. I just like knowing where our food comes from and that it's all natural and wild game. So
Favorite type of hunting?
elk hunting.
Wow, I did not know that about. See, I love that question, or the answers that I get to hear.
I guess that's just my favorite one to eat, and so that's it's a lot of fun, and I wasn't before I got together with my fiance, but he's a big hunter, and so it's just something that we started doing together, and now we do as a family.
Well, thank you so much, Alisha, for being here, for helping explain what all OSU Extension Office does, Master Gardeners. Good luck with the program this coming year.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate your time.